Today we're diving into one of the biggest, most heartbreaking mysteries in modern aviation, the vanishing of Flight MH370. I mean, just think about that for a second. A huge, state-of-the-art Boeing 777 with 239 souls on board, just gone, vanished from the sky, right? That's the real question here. How is that even possible? We live in an age where you can track a pizza to your front door, but a 200-foot-long jetliner can completely disappear? It's the question that's haunted experts and families for years. For almost a decade, there was nothing, just silence. But recently, a brand new signal, a potential new clue, might have just broken that silence. And to really understand why this is such a huge deal, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. So, let's start at the beginning of this whole mystery, with the flight's very last communication, the last goodnight. So, if you look at the flight details, everything just seems perfectly normal. You've got Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 on a Boeing 777, a real workhorse of the skies, a very reliable plane. On board, 239 people. They're on a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The captain was a veteran, incredibly experienced, and they had more than enough fuel for the trip. It was by all accounts completely standard. Okay. So the plane takes off from Kuala Lumpur just after midnight. For the next 37 minutes, it's totally business as usual, smooth sailing. But then look at this. In the span of just 2 minutes, everything changes forever. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane is about to leave Malaysian airspace, Captain Shah signs off with a calm, routine message. "Good night, Malaysian 370. And that was it. That's the last anyone ever heard from them. Just 2 minutes later, its transponder, the device that basically yells out the plane's location to air traffic control, goes silent. The plane had become a ghost. So for days, the whole world thought the plane must have crashed right there in the South China Sea. But that's when the first major twist in this investigation was about to drop. Logically, everyone starts searching right where the plane was last seen on civilian radar. And I mean everyone. A massive international effort kicks off, ships and planes from 7 different countries scouring the South China Sea. But they found absolutely nothing. No debris, no oil slick, not a single trace. And the reason they found nothing? Well, it turns out they were looking in the wrong place entirely. This first major twist came from the Malaysian military. They revealed that while the plane was invisible to civilian radar, they had kept tracking it on their primary radar for another hour, and it was not flying towards Beijing. The military radar showed something stunning. The plane didn't just fall out of the sky. It made a sharp, deliberate U-turn. It flew back across Malaysia, over the Strait of Malacca, and was last spotted at 2:22 a.m., heading out into the massive, empty Indian Ocean. Now this is crucial. That's not something a plane does on its own. This wasn't a catastrophic failure. Someone was flying that plane. The military radar track was a bombshell, but it was only part of the story. The next clue was even more incredible, and it came from a satellite way out in space. So modern jets like this have a system that automatically sends a little ping to a satellite network every hour or so, basically just to say, hey, I'm still powered on. Think of it like your phone automatically checking for a Wi-Fi signal. It's just a background check-in. And here is where the story gets truly wild. Even after the plane disappeared from military radar, it kept sending these hourly pings for another 5 hours. These were like ghostly handshakes from space, proving the plane was still flying, silently, on some unknown path over one of the most remote places on the planet. The very last ping came in at 8:19 in the morning, and when investigators did the math, that time lined up almost perfectly with the plane's total fuel capacity. They came to a chilling conclusion. The plane flew south for hours and hours until its engines finally ran out of fuel and flamed out. The flight was over. So, using some incredibly complex calculations based on those pings, investigators mapped out a new search area, this huge arc of ocean way out west of Australia. And that kicked off a truly staggering search effort. What came next was one of the biggest and most expensive deep-sea searches in history. We're talking over $160 million. For almost 3 years, specialized crews mapped a dangerous, unknown part of the seabed, an area larger than India. And incredibly, after all that, they still found nothing. But while the high-tech underwater search came up empty, the ocean itself started to give up some clues. Pieces of the plane began washing up on shores thousands of miles away in Africa. The first key piece of debris found, a part of the wing called a flaperon, told them something vital. It wasn't in its landing position. This suggests the plane didn't glide into the water. It likely fell from the sky in a high-speed, uncontrolled dive.
So the debris tells us how the flight probably ended, but it still doesn't tell us the biggest question of all: why? What could have possibly happened on that plane?
Well, it really all boils down to two main theories. First, that it was a deliberate act, a hijacking, either by the pilot or someone else who knew how to disable the plane's systems. The other theory points to a catastrophic accident, like a fire or a decompression that incapacitated everyone on board, leaving the plane to fly on autopilot as a ghost flight. But honestly, without the plane's black boxes, we just don't know for sure.
For years, the case went cold. The official search was suspended. But just recently, a new analysis has come to light that might just point the way forward.
A retired British aerospace engineer named Richard Godfrey says he has pinpointed a new crash site. He used this really novel technology to analyze how a huge plane would disturb amateur radio signals as it flew through them. By tracing these disturbances, he was able to map a final flight path to a very specific spot that the original search might have missed.
But there's a catch. The location he's pointing to is incredibly challenging. It's at a depth of 4,000 meters. That's 2.5 miles straight down. To put that in perspective for you, that's the same depth where they found the Titanic.
The Malaysian government is now looking at this new evidence. So the question is, will they launch a new search based on this signal of hope? And could it finally provide answers for the 239 families who are still waiting? The mystery of MH370 is not over yet.